I have no enemies. A simple phrase that has taken over meme culture and impacted millions of people over the past month or so. The quote has also been used in various memes, skits, and parodies. If you're not well versed in anime, this saying comes from the show called Vinland Saga. But why would such a phrase resonate with so many people? What does having no enemies even mean? Is it even possible to have no enemies? To answer these questions, we need to look at some of the sources of inspiration and influence behind this quote. One of the possible sources is the Nobel Peace Prize laureate Liu Xiaobo, who was a Chinese human rights activist and writer who was imprisoned for his political views and died in custody in 2017. In his final statement before his trial in 2009, he said, "I have no enemies and no hatred. None of the police who monitored, arrested, and interrogated me, none of the prosecutors who indicted me, and none of the judges who judged me are my enemies." He also said, "Hatred can rot away at a person's intelligence and conscience. Enemy mentality will poison the spirit of a nation, incite cruel mortal struggles, destroy a society's tolerance and humanity, and hinder a nation's progress toward freedom and democracy." Liu Xiaobo's words show us that having no enemies is not a sign of weakness or cowardice, but rather a sign of strength and courage. It means that we do not let hatred or resentment consume us or blind us to the humanity of others. It means that we do not see others as threats or obstacles, but rather as fellow human beings who deserve respect and compassion. Another possible source is the poem You Have No Enemies by Charles Mackay, a Scottish poet and journalist who lived in the 19th century. The poem reads, "You have no enemies, you say. Alas, my friend, the boast is poor. He who has mingled in the fray of duty that the brave endure, must have made foes, if you have none. Small is the work that you have done. You've hit no traitor on the hip. You've dashed no cup from perjured lip. You've never turned the wrong to right. You've been a coward in the fight." Mackay's poem shows us that having no enemies is not a sign of virtue or wisdom, but rather a sign of indifference or cowardice. That means that we have not stood up for what is right or defended what is good. That we have not challenged the injustice or oppression that we see around us and have not fought for our ideals or values. So how can we reconcile these two different perspectives on having no enemies? How can we be both brave and compassionate, both righteous and forgiving? The answer lies in the context and intention behind our actions. Having no enemies does not mean that we avoid conflict or confrontation at all costs. It does not mean that we ignore or tolerate evil or harm, or that we compromise or surrender our principles or dignity. Having no enemies means that we choose our battles wisely and carefully. It means that we act out of love and not out of hate, that we seek to understand and not to judge. It means we recognize that everyone is human and flawed, including ourselves. We acknowledge that everyone has their own reasons and burdens, including those who oppose us. We respect that everyone has their own beliefs and values, including those who disagree with us. To see them as fellow human beings who are also suffering and misguided. It means that we strive to be better and not bitter. It implies there's more to life than just a dog-eat-dog, zero-sum existence, where the only way to get on top is to destroy those competing with you. It shows clinging to hatred is like holding onto a burning ember. Its scorching heat consumes not only our enemies but also ourselves. By letting go of our hatred, we release the weight of our anger and make room for our own personal development. It allows us to release the shackles of resentment and free ourselves from the burden of anger and bitterness. Thor was a man of peace and wisdom, who taught his son that no one has any enemies in this world, and that there is no one he needs to hurt. He believed that a true warrior does not need a sword, but rather has a strong will and compassion for others. But let's be honest, we've all had moments where we wanted to get back at someone who wronged us. We've all felt that burning desire for revenge. But here's where the Vinland Saga takes a surprising turn. As Thorfinn faces one tough challenge after another, he undergoes a remarkable transformation. He changes, and I mean, he changes a lot. He reaches a point where he utters those four powerful words, "I have no enemies." He sees the suffering and injustice that plague the world, and he understands that violence only breeds more violence. He decides to renounce his hatred and embrace peace. He becomes a true warrior, as his father wanted him to be. He sets out on a journey to find Vinland, a mythical land of peace and prosperity that his father dreamed of. Along the way, he encounters many obstacles and enemies who try to stop him or kill him. But Thorfinn does not fight back. He does not hate them or fear them. He does not see them as enemies. He sees them as fellow human beings who are also suffering and misguided. He sees through the illusions and lies that people use to justify their actions and beliefs. He sees that they are all driven by fear, greed, pride, or ignorance. He sees that they are all trapped in a cycle of suffering and violence that they cannot escape. It is a phrase that reflects Thorfinn's character arc. From a naive boy who wanted to be a warrior, to a vengeful man who wanted to be a killer, to a wise man who wanted to be a peacemaker. He has chosen to change his heart and his mind. He has decided to renounce his sword and become a true warrior like his father. He has understood what his father meant by saying that no one has any enemies in this world, and that there is no one he needs to hurt. He sees that he has no enemies. The quote, "I have no enemies," is not only a powerful statement of Thorfinn's character development, but also a profound philosophy of life. It is a philosophy that transcends the boundaries of fiction and reality and speaks to the core of our humanity. It is a philosophy that shows us the true meaning of being a warrior and a human being. Remember, in the realm of enemies, the most formidable one often lies within ourselves. In the epic battles of life, the true victory lies not in defeating others, but in conquering the demons that lurk within us. We hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. And remember, you too have no enemies.